All right, this is Parshat Et Hanan. Now, this week on Thursday, there will not be a class in the morning because it's Tisha B'Av. Tisha B'Av, you're not supposed to learn Torah. So we will not have a class on Tisha B'Av. Unless further notice, some people say that you can learn Chassidut on Tisha B'Av, but I don't know if that's so. So I'll ask somebody and I'll see. I don't remember what we did last year. But here we go.
Well, no, you have to start coming. The other two are.
Very good. Okay. Parshat Et Hanan, Dvar Malchut. A speech given by the Lubavitcher Rebbe on 1991. Shabbat Nachamu. Now, this is Shabbat Nachamu, is the first of the 7 called the chapters of the Shabbatot of comfort. Shevet Nechamta, because we read 7 different prophecies of Isaiah comforting the Jewish people. If you ever read the book of Isaiah, it's pretty severe over there. Isaiah really gets, he is conveying God's anger and displeasure with the Jewish people. But every single chapter, almost every single chapter, it always ends up by saying, but God loves you. God is the only reason he's angry at you is because he cares about you, Jewish people, and he's never going to leave you. But you're really going to get it because you're not doing what you're supposed to do. But finally, in the end of every chapter, and finally, like in the last 20 chapters, it's only good stuff. Only good. Oh, God loves you, and God is going to gather you together, and God is going to forgive you, and God is. And this is the Nachamo. That's what this Torah portion is. Nachamo. 2 times it says, Nachamo Ami. Be comforted, my people. And it's an easy thing to say, we've been suffering for 2,000 years. And if you see these, what was going on in the Holocaust, like we said, it's just incomprehensible, the cruelty that went on there with babies, with this. Thousands, millions of people of Jews that were killed. The Nazis, they killed like 20. They killed about 50 million people. 50 million people for conquering and just for cruelty. But the Jews, for some reason, they had this thing about that. Especially, they were centered on killing Jews. Jews were like, the other people, they killed them because they were sort of in their way or something like that, or they wanted to show them that they were conquerors. But the Jews weren't in their way. They didn't have a country. They didn't have anything. He just hated the Jews. They made the Nuremberg law just against the Jews. Well, that was nothing. I gotta say nothing compared to like the first temple and the second temple, especially the second temple. It says there were rivers of blood of people with famine, and all the Jews were affected. All the Jews. And after all these 2,000 years, and there's also the pogroms. They made the pogroms. Now what they're doing over there in the Ukraine, the Ukrainians were like really, expert torturers. They just did things that just naturally, especially to the Jews, that just, like a person gets a pleasure from swimming or something like that. That's it. And there was generations, that was all the pogroms, and then Russia, there was pogroms. The Jews went through just so much terrible, and God is saying, okay, let's just forget about it. Nachamo. How could it possibly, how is it going to be that we can say, listen, let's forget about it. You know what, God, we'll forget about it, probably we deserved it, and we're not coming with any complaints, especially because God is creating us, so our complaints aren't going to do any good anyway, right? Who are we going to complain to? So maybe that's what this is. No, that's not the pshat. That's not what it means. Nachamu means that you're going to see that all of these sufferings and tortures that you went through were really good. And it's a totally different type of good. You can't imagine this. good. It's better than going to heaven. It's better than all the other things. You suffer in this world in order to go to the world to come. And it's not going to be just a means. The actual suffering itself is going to be something that's going to be so precious, not because we're suddenly going to transform to masochists or something like, oh, we love pain. Of course not. What's going to be, we don't know. No idea. I can't possibly imagine how you can possibly explain away the suffering of even one person. I don't get it, unless you say that it was to strengthen him and to make him better or something like that. But anyway, but it's going to happen. And that's what the Nachamu means, that all the suffering is going to be transformed to good. Let's go. You do it's known Shekama Haftaros that the Haftorahs, these 7 chapters from Isaiah that we read every week, these next 7 weeks until Rosh Hashanah, Shevan and Achamta, that Maftar that we read from the from the prophecy of Isaiah, from after Tisha B'av until Rosh Hashanah, that they are according to the time and according to according to the time and according to the occasion. The lo kamo, not like all the other Torah portions, that they are just talking about something about the Torah portion. The other Torah portions that we read in the course of the year, they have something the Haftorah has something to do with the Torah portion that we read. Like I said, the Haftorah usually comes from the prophets. Sometimes it comes from the writings and other, but that comes from the prophet. So usually there's a topic there in the Haftorah, which is similar to some topic, or usually the major topic, whatever, in the Torah reading that we read. Okay, but here in these 7, it's not only talking about that, the Torah portion, but especially it's talking about the time when we're in. These days between Tisha B'av and Rosh Hashanah. Yesh Lahem, there is a special connection to the Parshos, Kevin, since Shagama, Mo'oros, the Zman Yashana, since the occasions of the year, Lafia Zman, Lafia Mo'ora, they're relevant to the portion of the week. So what happens in the world is relevant to the portion of the week. And this is all brought together by the Haftorah. Kadivra Shlo, like the Shlo is the Shnei Luchot Abrit, Rabbi Yeshaya Horowitz, says that the holidays of every year, the Kulim and all of them have special connection to the Torah portions which are read in them. Akol Miyadei Hashem, because everything is from God, Haskil. To think about. So, okay, Benito Didan in our case, Shabbos Nachamo, that this portion of Shabbat, the Shabbat, coming Shabbat, is going to be after Tisha B'av, right? So as we're reading Nachamo, this is talking about the beginning of that Torah, right in the beginning of this Haftorah, Nachamo, Nachamo, Ami, be comforted, my people. This is where this is in Isaiah chapter, which chapter? Chapter 40. From 40 on, the Haftorahs are all positive messages of. The chapter 40 is saying, be comforted, my people. This is the beginning, Barosh, and the head that includes all of the other 7, all the other 6, 7, all of the 7 chapters that we read, the 7 prophecies of Isaiah that we read in these 7 coming weeks in the Haftorah, the head of them is be comforted, be comforted. And it's also connected to Parshas Et Hanan. Shekorin, that we read all the time, Et Hanan, this week's Torah portion, we read it all the time on the Shabbat, which is after Tisha B'av. Et Hanan. That's this week's Torah portion. What's Et Hanan mean? Moses is speaking to the Jewish people, and he's reminding them of things that were. Reminding them and giving them new laws. One of the things he says, Jews, remember, Et Hanan, I prayed to God And I said, God, please let me come into the land of Israel. After all, what did I do? I just struck a rock. Come on, I did so many good things. I withstood so many tests and tribulations. So I struck the rock, hit the rock. Okay, it was bad. I admit it was bad. But let me into the land of Israel, okay? Ve'et Hanan. And I requested, I plead, I begged. Ve'et Hanan. And I begged. That's the name of this week's Torah portion. That needed to be done. In our case, no, we did that. But Nakudat Abir, Nachmu, this is a double comforting. I'll buy a Rishon comforting on the first temple that was destroyed and on the second temple that was destroyed. He and Nachama, the Binyan Beit HaMikdash, this is the comforting. How is God going to comfort us? By the third temple. The third temple is going to be built in the third redemption. The third temple is going to be a Bayit Nitzchah. It's going to be eternal. Geula Nitzchah is an eternal redemption. She'ein achara Geula, there's not after it any exile. And this is relevant also to Parshat Et Hanan, the prayer of Moses that he wanted to go into the land of Israel. Like it's known, if the Jewish people would have merited to go into the land of Israel, Moses would have been with them. They would have built the holy temple by means of Moses, and it would be immediately the Geula Nitzchis. It would be immediately a permanent redemption. God would be revealed in this world, and the world would be wonderful. When was that? Almost 3,000 years ago. We would have avoided 3,000 years of pain and suffering and frustration and exile and etc. But it didn't happen that way. So Moses was praying back then, please God, let me come into the land of Israel and let it be a good world and we'll no pain. And okay, what do you say, God? What are you going to do? You're going to let me in? And God said, give over your last messages, Moses, because you're going to die before you go into the land of Israel. And Moses said, okay, that was just one prayer. He said Moses prayed 515 prayers that God should let him into Israel, and God didn't answer him then. But we're going to see that those prayers are standing for us now to go into the land of Israel. It is stressed also that the request of Moses to go into the land of Israel, God did not answer it. Moses did not want his prayers to be answered 3,000 years down the road. He wanted his prayers to be answered right then. And God did not answer his prayers. Come up forth, like it says in the Torah, Vayitaber Hashem be, that God got mad at me, Lamanchem, V'lo Shama alai, and he didn't listen to me. Va'ad until Sheyomer Hashem alai, and finally God said, Moses is relating to the Jewish people, that God said to me, Al Tosef L'davar alai davar zeh. Don't talk to me anymore about this. Alei Reisha Pisgah, I'll let you go up to the top of this mountain and you can see the land of Israel. Ki lo ta'avor alei Yarden. You're not going to go across the Jordan River, says God to Moses. Right? Moses is relating all this to the Jews. I prayed to God, let me go. And God said, stop requesting. I'm not going to let you in. Go up to the top of the mountain. You're going to see the whole land of Israel, but you're not going to go there. V'tzav es Yeshua, you should command Joshua, B'hu yanchil otam. Joshua, he'll take the Jews into Israel.
Abba, manishma.
I know, namely, Sheba Parshat, what's going on over here? What happened? Oh, there we go. I know, namely, there we go. Sheba Parshat, I know, namely, Sheba Parshat Et Hanan. Parshat Et Hanan is stressed. Actually, the going into the land of Israel. By means of who? Not by Moses, but by means of Joshua. God says to Moses, Joshua is going to take them in. Shachar after that, in order that there could be because they went in without Moses. So, it was set for disaster. There was the destruction of the temple. There was exile. Like it says in the Hemshech Parsha, he told banim, if you give birth to children, etc. That's the reading that we read on Tisha B'Av in the day. The Eich Matim Zeh in Tochen Haftarah al derech Bittul v'Shlilas HaChorban How is this fitting to the Haftorah? The Haftorah says that God says, I'm going to comfort you, I'm going to comfort you. And this week's Torah portion is talking about, no way. You're going to go into the land of Israel, not you, Moses, Joshua, and the temple is going to be destroyed. It seems to be two opposite messages. The Haftorah talks about the future redemption. It should be something like that in this Torah week's parsha, right? And in Et Hanan. But it's not. Et Hanan talks about the opposite. Moses, you're not going to go into the land of Israel. Because of that, the temple is going to be destroyed, right? And that's this week's Torah portion. What's the Haftorah? Talks about, I'll comfort you for the fact that the temple is destroyed. So that's an opposite message. Or even though maybe you can say, no, it's not so opposite message. In Parshas, it's talking about why you have to have a comfort. In this week's Torah portion, Et Hanan is talking about that the temples are going to be destroyed. And then after that, that gives more meaning to what it says in the Haftorah. But I will comfort you in double. That in this true redemption, in order to bring you into the land of Israel, won't, because going into Israel was not by means of Moses. So now I'm going to read the Haftorah. You're going to be comforted doubly. In other words, if Moses would have taken the Jews into Israel, you wouldn't have had to have any comfort. There would have been the redemption, and that's it. But because Moses didn't do it, and Joshua did, so therefore there came to be the destruction of the temple, and therefore I can give you the comfort. Mistaber Lomer, so it seems to be the Nacham of Kaflaim, so it must be that this double comfort, it's not just the Band-Aid, the treatment that you do for the exile, but it must be somehow or other connected to the exile itself. We can understand this. A biur b'tochna shel Haftorah sheven nechamto nachmu nachmu ami. Okay, let's look at these 7 Haftorahs that we're going to read. The first one it is, be comforted, my people. Comforted double comfort. Sheichuta shel Haftorah le'inyan Geula. The connection between this Haftorah and the redemption is in addition to the fact that it's a comfort, a double comfort. The Geula, the future redemption, will be a comfort. Gam also mitzad inyan hakefel, the double. Nachava b'kiflayim. The future redemption is going to have something that had never been before. Doubles. Kiyadua shekefel, this whole idea of doubling something. Shayach umora el, this is connected to the whole topic of Geula, redemption. What does the word redemption mean? There's really no word for it in English. Geula. But the essentially what it means is, I mean, describe it. It's a word to describe what happened when the Jews, the difference between the state of the Jews when they were in Egypt and when they got out. The state of the Jews when they were in Egypt, as they lived basically secure lives, but it was totally, tremendously limited. And their consciousness was limited, and their horizons were limited, and their identity was limited. They were slaves in Egypt, they were slaves. That was their identity, they were slaves. They did their job, they got fed. Everything was certain. That's like being in jail. You're in jail, you get 3 meals a day, whatever you get. The conditions are certainly not the best, but at least you're secure. You have certainty. Geula means you're free. You're free to be who you are. It's almost like the difference between the ground and a plant. Right? The ground is dead, but it's there. A plant starts to move. It's moving, it's dynamic. Then you have the difference between a plant and an animal. Oh, an animal even moves more. The plant is stuck on the ground. What about the difference between an animal and a human being? Human beings have ideas. They can move from one identity to another. They can move from one goal to another, or one paradigm to another. So imagine taking the ground and transforming it into a human being. Oh, that's like Geula, revealing the potential which is in the ground. That's Geula. The Jewish people, when they were in Egypt, they were like dirt. They were like in the ground. They were like plants, they were like animals, whatever. And it's given the example, they were like a fetus. Right? They were just totally unconscious. And when they were redeemed, all of a sudden they had responsibility and they were moving, and they were dynamic, and they were alive. Like it says in the Midrash, Chamesh Osio, there's 5 letters that are doubled. And all of them are the language of Geula. In the Hebrew alphabet, there's 22 letters. But 5 of those letters, if they appear at the end of the word, it's a different shape. It's called longer, a longer letter. Final. A final chaf and a final mem and a final nun and a final pei and a final tzadik. Here it is. See, chaf, mem, nun, pei, tzadik. All these letters are used in sentences that refer to a freedom, redemption. For instance, chaf, the 2 double chaf, this is in Abraham when God said, Lech lecha, go, go. Mem says in another, Magid Mishram, each one has its own sentences that it brings. What about the pay, final pay? It's the promise that God gave to Jacob. Pakad pakadati. Tzaddik, it says also in the future that God will redeem the Jewish people in the end of their redemption. Like it says, Ish tzemach shemo. Umitachtav yitzmach, 2 times tzaddik. But the Moshiach is called tzemach David. He'll grow up tzemach. So all these double letters can be found in sentences that relate to the future redemption. The Yeshlom, where we can say that the connection to this week's Torah Haftorah is doubled, right? Nachmu, Nachmu. This the connection of double to redemption, this is also in the sentence, Kiflayim Latoshia. It says that there's doubled redemption, Job. Doubled redemption, doubled power. Toshia is also Yeshua, salvation. Salvation. Toshia et amecha. And the explanation of this, let's say like this. What is this thing of doubles? When you say that something is doubled, it implies not just that it's times 2. It means doubled means, the word in Hebrew means kiflayim, means many times. Means like multiplied. Kefel is doubled. In Hebrew, in the Hebrew language, I don't know if it's modern Hebrew, but if they say, but kefel means to multiply it. Kefel shlosh, kefel arba, right? 4 times 4, arba, kefel arba, means double. So the word kefel doesn't necessarily mean just double. It means to double and redouble, to multiply. This includes also riboy, multiply. Asgam riboy gadol, that the greatest multiplication, the greatest number, ajitachlis of riboy, the ultimate that you can have doubled and redoubled and redoubled and multiplied without any end. Kafisha mitzina, like we can find in the words of the rabbis, shalamdim bekefel lashon hakatuv afilu mea pamim. It says ochech tochech et amitecha. It says even 100 times. Shehakavana, it means lo lahagbil achiuv lemea pamim v'lo yoter. It doesn't mean, let's say for instance 100 times and more. No, it means double. The word kefil means to multiply. In other words, just keep going. The greatest number that there can possibly be, and this is represented by the number 100. Like it says, a person has to bless 100 blessings every day. That in this is all the other blessings and that you can bring down from godliness, the rays of godliness, etc., all the different types of blessings, because that's represented by the number 100. Why? Because usually in Judaism, the number 10 is a complete number. I mean, I think in regular mathematics, it's also, you have 1, and it goes 2, 3, 4, 5, even in grammar, right? You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then it goes back again. 10 and 1, 10 and 2, 10 and 3, 10 and 4, 13, 14, 15. Right? 11 and 12 is a little bit different. Okay, 14. And then you have the same thing, 100, 115, 150, 100. So the 100 is there. Each time it comes to like a new level. It's multiplied by 10. 10 is a complete number. And each one is 10, is composed of 10. That makes 100. So automatically we can see from this that the 10 included in each one of the 100, that comes to 1,000. And so it is if you have 10 in each one of the 1,000, then you have 10,000s, 100,000s, million thousands. Ravava is 10,000. Reboy. So that's what it means when it says the word kefel. It means an increase that doesn't stop. According to this, Yishla Ba'er, we can explain, especially if you go according to, what do they call it? There's a word for it. I can't think of the word. Anyway, 1 times 2, and then 2 times 2, and then that's 4, and then 4 times 4, and then 16 times 16. In other words, you just keep, what's the word for it? There's a word, it slips my mind. Okay, not proportionally. Okay, exponentially. Exponentially. According to this, we can explain the connection between the kefel and Geula. Why is it that says that the language of redemption is doubled? Nachamu, nachamu, lech, lecha, pokadati. In the kefil, this idea of doubled really doesn't mean just doubled. It means multiplied infinitely. Shaykh, this is especially relevant to the future redemption. Sha'az, that then will be revealed in this world the light of God, which is infinite. In the language of Kabbalah, the revelation of Or Ein Sof, the infinite light of God. Look, and therefore, all of the things in this world will be complete. And the complete redemption of the third temple. Geula Nitzis, an eternal redemption, that there won't be any exile after it. Sheyu b'neshech zman mugbal. It won't be a certain amount of time. Like the first temple was 410 years, the second temple was 420 years. It'll be infinite. Okay, I think here's the time where maybe we can explain something. That's the unlimitedness of the future redemption. And this is expressed in Nachamu Nachamu even more than any place else, than Lech Lecha and all the others. And this is what we're going to talk about tomorrow. The Torah starts off with the creation of the world. It's not that there's a whole bunch of worlds in our Torah. We get the Torah here because that's explaining, that's like the, how do you say, the instruction book for this world. Right? Like you go into a toy store or whatever it is, and a computer store, and each one has its instruction book and it's written in several different languages. And you want to buy a Mixmaster, it has this instruction book, and you want to buy a vacuum cleaner, it has this instruction book. It's the same thing with God created the world. There's a lot of worlds, but this world, it has the Torah. That's the instruction book for this world. That is not so. That is not so. I mean, you could think that way, at least you're thinking God created the world. That's also something. But the fact is, it's not so. What is the point of Judaism? It's trying to say that this world is the only one. That's it. This world is the only one. There are other worlds, there are other nations, there are other people, there's other creations. Could be there's creations on Mars or whatever, but there's only one Torah, and there's only one Jewish people. There's only one reality. And the most real thing there is in reality is this world where we're living in that has the Torah. If there are people that live on Mars or whatever it is, so their life is only becomes, how do you say, meaningful and consequential if they're somehow or other related to the Torah. If they're not related to the Torah, then it's not really real. So what does it mean? It means that every moment in this world and every detail of this world is being created by God every single second brand new from his essence and from his inner desire. In other words, this world is tremendously, tremendously important to God, more than all of the upper worlds, more than anything. Everything we do in this world is eternal. Every detail of this world is eternal, especially if we do it according to the way God wants. In the Torah, then it's a total different, higher level of eternalness or truth. So everything we do, everything we say, everything we think, every single instant, the seemingly most inconsequential and not important things in the world are tremendously, tremendously, infinitely important to God. That's called hashgacha pratit, that every single detail is infinitely important to the Creator. It never dies. It's there eternally. It's, so to speak, it never was before. When we do something, we're doing something new, real in the world that has never been before. It's like a novelty to God. So to speak, before the world was created, God didn't really exist. Because before the world, there was no existence. There was no time. There was no before. There's no such thing as before. That's what it says in Kabbalah, before. It means different levels of reality. Okay, so we're talking about things we don't understand, but the basic of it is that this world is the sum total of all of these not understandable, infinitely valuable mysteries. Mysteries. And that's why when God is revealed in the world, then the world becomes more alive, it becomes more dynamic. And every single second of this world, we see and we feel how infinitely incomprehensible and meaningful that it is. And that's the future redemption. Everything is going to be doubled and redoubled and redoubled and multiplied and multiplied and multiplied. So we'll see the meaning that we never believed that there was such an important meaning in everything that there is in the world. Everything is, and it's all good. That's the point. It's all good. It's all happy. A certain type of meaning and happiness that's going to come from every single plant and rock, and especially every person. And especially every Jew, especially every commandment that a Jew does. But everything is going to be incredibly, that's the idea of the future redemption. That's how it's going to come to all the Jewish people. And that's going to be the double comforting that we're going to get. Why you had to have the destruction of the temple in order to get to that. We'll talk about more, God willing, tomorrow. And now we'll do the Yom Yom. Oh, stop the share.